Hello, welcome to another book review. I'm your host, Kristen, and today I will be reviewing the YA fantasy book, House of Night, Hidden, by PC and Kristen Cast. In case you are interested in reading this book afterward, content warnings in this book are blood, violence, ableism, racism, exotification, slurs, sexism, transphobia, murder, abuse, sex shaming, gore, and homophobia. For this review, I will start with the overall plot, then world building, and finally the characters. There will also be spoilers in this review. Let's begin. After revealing that Neferet is the cause of Linda's death, Zoe and Co. finally manage to turn the High Council against Neferet. However, Zoe still struggles with her feelings about Aurochs, especially since he has been reminding her of Heath. Meanwhile, Neferet kidnaps Zoe's grandmother in the hopes of gaining more power. Now, Zoe and company must make a plan and rescue Grandma Redbird before Neferet kills her. However, said plan may involve trusting Kelowna and Aurochs. For the plot, the book was okay. The main issue was once again with the pacing. For the first half of the book, nothing happened except Neferet getting shunned by the High Council, which didn't have much impact on the plot at all. There was a somewhat nice subplot about Aurochs feeling guilt for having been forced to kill Dragon, and meeting with Grandma Redbird, who helped Aurochs work out his feelings. However, considering Aurochs nearly committed sexual assault in the last book, Grandma Redbird convincing Aurochs that he isn't a monster doesn't really work. Halfway into the book, when Grandma Redbird finally gets kidnapped, I was somewhat excited for it. Finally, a character the reader is supposed to care about is in danger. Zoe and Co. cannot last long be active characters. Right? No. Instead, Zoe and Co. either sit around and bicker or are sad about how Grandma has been captured. Instead of alerting the authorities, because there is no way Neferet can cover that up, they decide to sneak into the hotel. There was next to no world building in this book, besides that the tendrils of darkness can be hurt by turquoise. Of course, this info is never used further. Once again, Zoe is caught up in boy drama. This time, it's between Stark and Aurochs, whom she suspects is a reincarnation of Heath. Why won't this love triangle just be resolved already? Even after he's dead, Heath has to ruin any sense of pacing. The most Zoe does in this book is land the final attack on Neferet, with a spell that's so obvious, I'm surprised she didn't figure out sooner. However, the spell is also a last-minute addition, so it feels like a cop-out when Neferet is defeated. For this book, the authors clearly meant for Aaron to turn to the side of the antagonists and to be seen as evil. However, I mostly just felt sorry for Aaron because throughout the entire book, she seemed rather lost. Since Aaron wasn't outwardly sad about Dragon's death, her so-called friends talked bad about her behind her back instead of sitting down and asking if she was okay. When Aaron started dating Dallas, Zoe and Co. immediately wrote her off as a lost cause, instead of looking deeper to see if there was any reason Aaron would be acting so out of character. It really felt like Aaron was being punished for grieving a different way. Every time she was on the page, Shaylin read people's auras, but that was about it. Besides telling Zoe and Co. that Aaron's aura was getting worse, and that Nicole, a red fledgling, had an aura that was getting better, she never had any big contributions to the overall plot. Lenobia, the equestrian professor, got the subplot of romance in this book, along with a few POV chapters. However, there was one glaring issue. Why should the reader care? It doesn't impact the plot at all. Heck, up until now, Lenobia hasn't been much of a character. She's barely fleshed out and not entertaining to read about. So why, 10 books in, Are the authors trying to develop her when all it does is result in more filler and slows the plot down further? As I mentioned in the plot summary, Aurochs' subplot with Grandma Redbird and dealing with guilt would have been nice had Aurochs not nearly committed one of the most evil acts known to man out of his own free will. Furthermore, Aurochs and Grandma Redbird only interacted twice, and both of those scenes were very brief. It didn't seem like enough time to get attached to the relationship between the two characters. Once again, Nefret was a weak villain. When she finally was shunned by the High Council, she sat around in her hotel room all day, drinking expensive wine and muttering how she'd make them all pay. That's not the words of an intimidating antagonist. That's the speech of a mustache-twirling villain in a Sunday cartoon. Real antagonists actually try to stop the heroes. When Nefret does manage to capture Grandma Redbird, how does she get past the hotel front desk and security without anyone calling the police? Also, when Grandma Redbird's turquoise bracelets kill the tendrils of darkness, Nefret keeps trying to kill her the same way over and over again. Instead of just, thinking for 2 seconds and taking off the bracelets herself and then have the tendrils attack, why did none of these characters stop to think? Overall, I give this book 1.5 stars. The plot started out okay, but quickly devolved into poor pacing and inactive characters. The worst part was when the characters had every reason to act quickly and get the ball rolling, but just continued to sit around instead. I hope the next book is okay.